Hi, I'm Jeff, and I've been working here at Monette Corporation for nearly 25 years. And I thought it would be great to sit down with Dave and ask him a few questions that trumpet players have about Monette Mouthpieces. The first question is, Dave, why did you design the constant pitch center mouthpiece?
Well, that's easy. It's because I didn't want playing to hurt so much.
Well, that's a really good motivation. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so the thing that always bothered me as a trumpet player when I was playing, I played four nights a week, 4 sets a night my last year or two of high school.
Yeah.
And I was playing dance music and playing up in the upper register like crazy. And it was all okay, except it hurt. I noticed that the higher up in the register I would play, the more constriction I felt in my throat and the stuffier the equipment got. And that just drove me nuts.
Yeah.
After working on all this for several years, I came to the realization in the mid-'80s that conventional mouthpieces just don't play in tune. They're inherently out of tune, and every overtone over the middle register, they just get flatter and flatter and stuffier. And I didn't want to have to compensate in my body. I didn't want to have to raise my shoulders or raise my head or tighten up or force the high notes come out. That was the main motivation for all of this work, the instruments and the mouthpieces.
So could you expand even more and talk about how Monette Mouthpieces improve players' intonation and the sound?
Yes, well, the concept behind all of our equipment, horns and mouthpieces, is something I call constant pitch center. When something has constant pitch center, you can play from soft to loud or from high to low, all through the register, all through the range, and the pitch doesn't change. And you don't have to compensate in your body to try and play in tune. So soft to loud, pitch doesn't change. Through each valve combination, pitch doesn't change. From low C to double high C, all the same. Just leave your body alone, stop compensating, and just play. That was my dream, and we got it.
Yeah.
Which is why we're all here all these years later.
Right.
I think almost any trumpet player, or brass player for that matter, alive, can relate to when they play from soft to loud, the pitch or the timbre or the resistance changes, or when they play from very low to very high, they have to move their body around, or the resistance changes or the timbre changes. Again, this gets back to what constant pitch center is. The dream was to have equipment that you can play all over the instrument at any register in any dynamic range, and it's all the same.
Yeah.
So if you want to change something, if you want to change the timbre, if you want to change the color or the shape of what you're doing, then you do that because it's a voluntary process and it's an artistic decision, rather than you're stuck having changes that are involuntary because you're tying yourself up like a pretzel compensating for out-of-tune equipment.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
Yes. So one of the things that people notice about Monette mouthpieces are they are heavier in weight than non-Monette mouthpieces. Could you explain why that is?
They're heavier because they can be. The heavier equipment is, the more stable and locked in and secure it is, and the more secure and locked in equipment is, the less notes you miss. But if someone makes a mouthpiece the old-fashioned way, or even as a new style mouthpiece, but in the length of a conventional mouthpiece, which is too long for modern brass instruments made the last 100 years or so, then they have to compensate, as we've talked about, in their body and do all these gyrations to try and play in tune. If there's less mass to the mouthpiece, there's less stability, so it's easier over the course of a long night for a player on a gig to try and make those mouthpieces play in tune. I mean, it's that simple. More weight, more stability, more security. If the mouthpiece does not have constant pitch center, and if it isn't inherently in tune with itself and with the instrument that it's being used on, then it's just a lot of work. And the Monette knockoff mouthpieces that are made in our weight or even heavier are just horrible to play because they're more work to play than a mouthpiece based on a design from 1900, which is what so much of the whole world plays, and so much of the orchestral world plays.
Yes. The newest iteration of Monette mouthpieces are the resonance mouthpieces.
Resonance mouthpieces are an improvement over any mouthpieces we have ever made, in part because the shape of the mouthpiece and the distribution of weight in the mouthpiece relative to the speed of air going through the length of the mouthpiece from the cup to the throat to the backbore is unlike anything that we've made before, and it's just much more balanced and much more even, and it makes the mouthpiece sound more balanced, more even, and way more effortless, especially in the register extremes. The only downside to that, of course, is that resonance mouthpieces take about twice as long to make as the old-fashioned Monette mouthpieces, and we only raise the price a very tiny amount. So yeah, it's challenging from a business standpoint to produce resonance mouthpieces, and our wait list for them is you know, longer than we would like because of the time involved in making them, but would rather build a mouthpiece that we know is spectacular and have people wait a few more weeks for them than to build a lesser mouthpiece and get it delivered faster.
Okay, thanks very much, Dave.
This has been great, Jeff.
All right.
Thank you.